Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist. First and weather here. It is July 14th, 2022, and we have a few things to talk about. Nothing too extreme going on in the nation currently, but there are a few weather stories out there, and this video will sort of cover the short range and also go into what's been going on with the climate and weather over the past few weeks. So first, right here, we have the GFS Ensemble, and this is the 18Z run for July 14th, and this is valid now for 12Z July 13th, so or yesterday. And you can see what the reason or what the cause was for those really severe storms in Northern Virginia and Maryland was a little shortwave trough coming through that provided some good instability, and that provided with some very elevated decape values allowed for some damaging straight line winds. Luckily, no tornadoes, but there was 80 mile per hour winds reported in College Park, Maryland, and even 118 or 90 mile per hour and plus winds reported in Winchester, Virginia. So a very potent system. It's caught some people off guard. There was an enhanced risk of severe weather by the SPC right in the area of the greatest severe weather reports. So that was a great forecast by the Storm Prediction Center. And some of the lightning and just overall ambiance of the storms was unreal and very unusual for the mid-Atlantic states. Usually, these type of scenarios happen in the Midwest during tornado season, but yesterday was a taste of what can happen when the conditions are all in the right place. So as we go through time, and this is the upper air geopotential height at 500 millibars, we can see that that short wave goes through, and the main sort of pattern or dominant feature over the next few weeks is going to be or next few days is a dominant ridge out west, and so this will help to sort of shut off the monsoon in Arizona and New Mexico, and also make things a bit toasty for the Southwest and also Eastern California. Those southwesterly winds will help keep things, or the high pressure will help keep things a bit warm. And also on the western side, some of the moisture off the Pacific will help keep things a little less dry in California. Hopefully, it's been very dry there. But overall, things will be quite dry off the California coast, and this is more bad news as this area is continuing to be in extreme drought conditions. And as we are in La Nina, large portions of the country west of the Mississippi are currently experiencing drought conditions. Now, as we go further through next week, we can see that ridge pretty much stays in place. There is an indication that another shortwave trough will swing through and maybe deliver some more showers and storms to the Mid-Atlantic and especially the Northeast. But overall, you can see that this is a pretty quiet pattern. After that, there's a signal for a more dominant ridging to take over the central U.S. But before that, you can see that a pretty quiet pattern for the East Coast, nothing too extreme, but that's just that big dominant ridge out west. Uh, and so you can see that those warm temperatures in the western part of the country, a bit mild, maybe even a bit cooler than average in the east. And so this will, in the eastern United States, since there's not really any main steering factors, the main sort of pattern will just be occasional pop-up storms and then the occasional shortwave trough coming through. And out west, it's going to be pretty dry in the interior portions. If I go to precipitation now, you can see that the next few days are certainly looking a bit dry in the Central Valley or the central United States. Nothing, not too strong of a signal, but definitely nothing, no wet signal either, which is definitely what the western coast needs. And you can see there's predominantly a pretty strong dry signal in the deep south, which is interesting. When going to the upper air, you can see that there's not really much in this area, but the strong or the persistent northwest or northwesterly winds from this dome of high pressure will only be advecting in dry air. It won't be too hot here, but it'll be very dry. There won't be any moisture coming off from the Gulf of Mexico, and this should help to keep things a bit drier in this region. Going back to precipitation, we can see that this pattern will only continue to the end of the month. And so there really isn't too much of an extreme signal. You can see that from the July 25th, and by the way, this is 7-day precip anomaly. You can see there is a bit of an indication for some above average precip here, and that is because of that high pressure here. It's going to force some shortwave troughs into the eastern part of the country, and that might make things a bit active, especially as you go further north. Now, if we look at the PRISM precipitation anomaly for the month of July, you can see there's a couple big stories. One is the dominant ridge in Texas that has essentially been stationed there for the past month or so, and it's sort of been a ring of fire with precip going around the ridge and bending around the arc, making things a bit unsettled in the southeast, but also very dry in the northeast. It's been very wet in Montana, and then also been very, very, very dry in California, with the notable exception of the northwest California coast. Now, as for temperature anomalies for the month of July, it's actually been a bit cooler than average over the western seaboard, and this will change as we go into next week. And it's been very, very warm in the state of Texas as that dominant high just sits in place, leading to adiabatic compression and low soil moisture, which just sort of acts as a feedback cycle, which makes things worse. Now, I want to take a look at the climate composite for the past month or so, and you can see that that really has been the main pattern. A bit of a trough on the west coast, which is why it's been so or a bit cooler than average, and the big ridge in the central U.S., which has kept things really warm and mild in Texas and especially the southeast. But it's also prevented or also allowed for some occasional short waves to come right around that ridge and bring showers and storms to the mid-Atlantic and northeast. And this is looking back a bit further from or a bit earlier, from June 25th through the 11th. And so that indicates to me that that ridging that was really expansive in the central U.S. earlier has broken down a bit. But you can still see that signal for some general troughing out west. That should finally start to break down as we go into next week. So overall, it looks like the western United States will start to turn a bit warmer, but continue to stay a bit dry. Nothing in the way of relief. And also the western or the central U.S. Will continue to stay very dry. There will be a bit of a relief in the terms of heat, but there isn't really any strong signal for rainfall coming into the deep south and the Texas region. And the mid-Atlantic and northeast will have to contend with pop-up showers and storms, seasonably mild or seasonably warm conditions with highs in the mid-80s in the mid-Atlantic and upper 70s to mid-80s in the northeast. Now, going over to the El Nino or ENSO, or La Nina rather, we can see that the La Nina is still going very strong, and is very strong for this time of year, almost 2 standard deviations below the average. You can see a strong east-based La Nina with the core of the coldest waters focused just west of South America. And you can also see the persistent signal for a negative PDO, which has been in place for quite some time now. If we look at the series or the time series of ENSO, you can see that it has strengthened a little bit over the past few weeks, but this is typical as we go into the spring. There's a lot more variability, but it does look like we will once again return back to weak La Nina conditions at the least by the time we reach the fall and winter months. So now, overall, the pattern of the next couple weeks looks pretty warm out west and unsettled in the east, but with the consistent and very persistent La Nina, could this have any implications for the winter? Well, unfortunately, yes, if you're a winter lover in the eastern part of the country, this being a record or a very unusual third La Nina winter, it does look like we're going to continue to see the main snow and the main cold being focused in the upper Midwest and also the Pacific Northwest when looking at the analog composites. Now, of course, each winter is different, and many La Nina winters have been very cold for the east, others have been very warm, but the overall general pattern is for the favorment of a southeast ridge, and most of the cold air and activity to be focused out in the northwest. And that would be very good news considering the drought forecast right now. If we took a look at the drought monitor on the National Weather Service website, you can see that the entire western portion of the country is currently suffering from some very significant drought. You can see large portions in extreme to exceptional drought, and even the eastern seaboard and portions of the northeast are dealing with drought conditions as is typical in a La Nina winter. So hopefully with the impending weak La Nina, which looks most likely, there will be some drought relief, especially in the western part of the country. Generally, this isn't really the case, and recently there has been more and more variability, but hopefully it won't be another record-breaking warm winter out west. Usually La Ninas tend to keep things a bit more mild and not as extreme out west during the winter as El Ninos, but we will see, and I'll have some more updates later. But overall, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.